we thought, come on, let's use the time. Let's do something that we usually don't do. But one thing you will never find in Heilung is Sanskrit or Buddhist themes. But in my daily practice, Buddhism has quite a big space. Mahakala is, of course, a very important deity in Tibetan Buddhism. A rageful deity is not rage as we perceive it in our daily life. It is really the destroyer of these illusions. Yeah, it clears the path. It's a good reflection point. It's a good point to meditate about it, like to listen to the mantras and dive into this thought. What do I carry inside of me that is worth destroying in order to become the person that I'm meant to be, in order to become more compassionate?
Hello Kai, thank you again for joining again my channel via folk, and today we are talking about Kriigerkvlt again, and you joined Season of Mist label and published the first single. So I meant to ask, when Kriigerkvlt just announced that it is starting, it was advertised as a project that will join forces with some other bands to provide the tribal noise, and now you came up with some original work. So how did you arrive to this idea of the single?
Oh, it was quite spontaneous, actually. We were in Germany, and we saw, or like we knew that we would go to Stockholm, and we just sat together and we were like, okay, should we just do some recording in Stockholm in the beautiful studio where ABBA also recorded? And
Mm-hmm.
then we just decided to do it and just, be very spontaneous about it and quite playful as well. And have a friend, Per, he meets in Stockholm as well, and he was like, I just asked him, like, would you be willing to, like, do some recording and some mixing and stuff? And he was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And then we just did it. Just very, very spontaneous. And
I noticed that you did it right after you gave the last concert in Dalhalla, right?
yeah, that is also one of the reasons, because like Kriigerkvlt is basically just a choir of Heilung. Like a lot of other Heilung members also have like parallel and other projects where they do explore areas that they can't like bring into Heilung, because we're using in Heilung, of course, only a traditional instruments that's fundamentally different in Kriigerkvlt. A lot of the uh, people in the warrior choir play other instruments as well, modern instruments, and we just said, okay, come on, let's bring in everything you can, bring in the piano, bring in the modern drum kit, and like use that. And it was also like, because of course we went at that time into a break with Heilung, and we were looking at the long stretch where there was like no real gathering of all of us, where there was no touring. And we thought, come on, let's use the time. Let's do something that we usually don't do. And that is also stretching in the topic. Like with the Heilung, we're very focused on the early medieval time and older periods of Europe mainly, and like really this like old stuff. And when we joined forces with John Connor, with the John Connor project, that went completely in the other direction. I mean, that is a universe which is like, based on like movies like Terminator and Mad Max and stuff like that. Like really future stuff. And it was kind of funny to explore that and like do something different.
So Mahakala, it's highly spiritual. Basically, I would like to ask you, what is the goddess that is the center of the piece, and how you arrived at the idea of devote that song to that goddess?
Yeah, that is of course very much growing on my turf. The one of the things is like people that look into Heilung they see, yeah, a lot of rooms, a lot of like ancient stuff. We go Bronze Age style and everything. But one thing you will never find in Heilung is Sanskrit or Buddhist themes. But in my daily practice, Buddhism has quite a big space. And I know a lot of mantras and I use a lot of mantras, and the Mahakala mantra or the Mahakala mantras, they're very appealing to me for a long time as well. And when I brought that idea to the group, everyone seemed to be like really happy about it. And then we just went into it, like everyone learned the mantras and we tuned in. And Mahakala is, of course, a very a very important deity in Tibetan Buddhism, as the kind of, it's a very complex deity. It's a very old deity that is rooted in pre-Buddhist Tibet as well, in the Bon shamanism, as a protective deity, as a deity that it is kind of linked to time, but like, not like time as we perceive it with the clock, but as an all interweaving kind of element or something like that. It is the protector of the Dharma, and it is also the destroyer of illusions. So, like, what we experience in our life is very often a reflection of what we are carrying inside. So, all the obstacles, all the enemies that we're dealing with, there is always, to some extent, an element inside of us that evokes that brings that to us, right? And like this rageful deity, is like not rage as we perceive it in our daily life. It is really the destroyer of these illusions. This, yeah, it clears the path, so to say. And I think it's a good reflection point. It's a good point to meditate about it, like to listen to the mantras and dive into this thought. What do I carry inside of me that is worth destroying in order to become the person that I'm meant to be, in order to become more compassionate as well?
I think it's very interesting because, like, of course, seeing such a complex and unusual music and a lot of unusual symbolism, I think it's very nice that we can talk to you and get some comment on what's the meaning. And I meant to ask, like, in music videos, there is like some like symbols or items that you show quite often, that a little bell and some other ritual objects. And I meant to ask, like, what do they mean? What are they?
Yeah, of course, like the bell is used in Tibetan Buddhism or and Buddhism and other cultures a lot, and it has multiple meanings, right? Of course. And there's one of the masks that you see there is actually an original mask from Tibet, but it is not a Buddhist mask. It's a Bon shamanism mask, and that they call that the mist eater, and it is actually made from a mushroom that grows on trees. So it looks like wood, but the mask itself is just a giant, yeah, it's just a giant mushroom that is carved uh, uh, um, into that mask. And also you see in the video a mala, like the Buddhist rosary, which is made from skulls, and that is very often used for the funeral rites and rites of passage by the monks. It has 108 skulls, and there's also different mantras attached to that. And of course, when you look at Mahakala, Mahakala is very often depicted with these skulls as well. And yeah, there's consciously a lot of Buddhist imagery inside, because, like, as I said before, the goal is like to make something which is like clearly different from Heilung, and the Buddhist imagery you will not find in Heilung. We focus much more on ancient European symbolism.
And I wonder, like, most people, they know you as a follower of core shamanism, and I wonder how it blends together, like when you are basically following core shamanism, but you're also interested in things like bone shamanism and Buddhism, like how it feels for you personally, like how those things come together.
Yeah, I mean, core shamanism is of course like the attempt to grasp like the primal, the core of shamanism itself, free from cultural hats, so to say, cultural attachments, cultural symbolism. But in the same time, it is impossible to do so, right? Because like in shamanism is always attached to some culture, to some tribe, and there is practicing core shamanism leads to the point that you automatically start studying cultures that are having shamanism in one or the other form uh, in their setup, right? And especially in Mongolian shamanism, you see a great overlap with Buddhism, and again in Tibet, very strong. There is like the Tibetan Buddhism is so deeply rooted in the ancient Bon shamanism that they basically, just the perfect example is Mahakala, that they take over deities, that they incorporate deities, and that is also something which we uh, clearly always say when we teach core shamanism. Shamanism is not a religion. It is the science of the soul, and as such it matches with all religions. So you can, yeah, you can be a good Christian, you can be a good pagan, or like, you know, whatever, however you define that, and at the same time be a very passionate practitioner of shamanism. So the shaman is basically always searching for elements that heal, elements that enlarge in compassion, elements that restore the balance in between the invisible, in between the spiritual world and the everyday reality. And whatever symbolism, whatever medicine, whatever instrument helps to do so, they will clearly devote to that. And Buddhism is not an exception.
Naturally, after this single, is there any more stuff that Kriigerkvlt is about to do?
Yeah, we will perform in Copenhagen, like the big metal festival in Copenhagen, together with John Connor one more time, and also other artists. And if you follow the Kriigerkvlt Instagram and Facebook, there's like updates about it. And whenever we find the time and the space, maybe we make another single. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think people who are watching this, they are of course watching it because you're a member of Heilung. So I meant to ask, how is hiatus going on for you? What are you doing? What are you spending time on? What is inspiring, and what are you busy with during this time?
I'm just coming from quite a stretch of multiple core shamanism basic workshops. So I finished one the day before yesterday here in Denmark, and that's a very beautiful spot there. Road it is called. And before that, I was in Wales at a spot called Kai Uwe, also holding two shamanism basic courses. And that is also a very, very beautiful spot in Wales, like close to the biggest mountain in Wales, and also outside Scotland. So the Scots, they have the highest mountains on the island. And in front of that, there's a small island, and it's called Anglesey. And that island is that used to be in the Iron Age, the University of the Druids, where people from all over the Celtic world came to study Druidism. And yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding shamanism courses. I will hold a couple of more uh, uh, in the end of May in Austria, and I'm traveling around, looking at beautiful places. I did another podcast uh, stuff in the time where there's no Heilung happening, and I work, of course, like very intensely with Old Norse. So the Old Norse clothing brand will be available on many music festivals during the summer, and of course that all of that takes quite a bit of time and space. So I'm not bored.
And I meant to ask, like, since you do that core shamanism, and I know you did something in Greece or on Olymp Mountain or
Yes,
something,
yes, yes.
how's the place where you hold the workshop? Is it affecting what's happening during workshop? Do you feel some energy from those big sacred places?
For sure. I mean, like shamanism, the power of the shamanism, the power of the shaman comes from the land. Although I would never call myself a shaman, I prefer the term shamanic practitioner because I'm not a Siberian person. Also, try to not appropriate titles that are not meant for me to have. But the land where I hold, or the ground where I hold these workshops, is of course very important, and it's mainly places that are either sacred sites themselves or very close to sacred sites and old settlements, because that is places where people brought a lot of respect to the spirits of the lands for a long time, sometimes even thousands of years. And for me, it's important to connect to these places and also connect the people to these places so that they really get an understanding of that spirituality is hard to obtain in a concrete cube when looking at the black mirror that makes funny pictures. The power is out there with the stones and the
I think it's quite advanced level of spirituality if you can reach the same height in the concrete cell, right? When you're completely
well,
like detached from.
well, I mean, like there's, especially since we're having like a strong focus on Tibetan Buddhism here, like in the Himalayas, there is actually the path of the arrow, and there is monks that are actually going into small eremitages up in the mountains, and that is like literally sometimes caves or rooms where they get walled in, and they do that for months and sometimes even years at the time. Like Sven Hedin, when he traveled to Tibet in the last century and like saw the Tibetan Buddhism untouched by the following tragical events, he recorded that there was one monk. He was sitting in one of these cells for 43 years at the time, and what they do is like they have some of them, they are in complete darkness even, and they only get food once a day, and they get it in a way with a double window, so they just hear, okay, someone delivered food, and then the outer window is closed again, and when they open it, they can get it. So they don't even get like a single ray of light in there. Some others, they have like small balconies and stuff like that, and that is like really really intense. But these guys also, they don't take a mobile phone with them in that cube.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I recently read about the same practice in medieval Christianity.
Hmm.
Essentially, the same story. A person decides to be staying in that small room and completely locked in for life, and they only have that window when they talk to people, apparently offering some advice and receive the rituals, the communion, and it's like really close. It doesn't exist today, but totally like really
Mm.
close.
Yeah, there's many stuff like that around. There's much stuff like that around, like the hermits, and there's also in Morocco traditionally when someone died, the oldest female of the household retreated in one room of the house for around a year and also didn't speak to anyone. And so this like conscious seeking of long stretches of solitude, it's known from many cultures and can be good.
All right, thank you so much, Kai, for comment on your single. Um, good luck with everything, and please stay healthy. And I wish you a lot of energy for what comes next.
Thank you. Same to you.